Hey guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson this time. So smiling pretty big because we're finally together on location in Pittsburgh. We're at the North Americans, the NPC North American. So I thought it'd be a great time, Adam, to really talk about what's on everybody's minds at this moment. I'm working with clients. You've got a ton of clients. I'm here with Paul Ravella and Lauren Conlon as well, and they've got all kinds of clients. Every time we get together after a division or class is finished, we're either celebrating with somebody who won or had a PR, or consoling somebody who didn't do as well as they wanted to. And the first topic is always judging criteria. You know, I thought I was there. I thought I was right where I needed to be. And what are they looking for now? So we want to go through a little bit of the judging criteria and just how you as a competitor can make sure you're putting your best foot forward every time. So let's go through kind of the order that they do here, which is day one is bikini.
Yes.
And I know you've got about 8,000 bikini competitors here.
Yes.
So talk first about exactly what conditioning is the most appropriate for this division.
This is a great topic, especially for this show where you have masters and then open bikini. And I'm sure you saw what I saw when the masters start crossing down into, like, let's say they go 45 and up, and then they go into 35 and up, conditioning being one of the main criteria. A lot of the masters girls are very well conditioned, very muscular, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they want in the open division, but they have to sway to choose the best overall person for that category. So if we start conditioning, you're going to see harder girls in the masters, and then they just tend not to do as well in the open because they're just too hard. And
I do notice in the IFBB and the NPC, they really do have a specific look they're going for. And if you are too lean or too muscular or maybe even just too big, you are definitely not going to place well.
Right.
And in other organizations I've been a part of, it always seems like the default is just, you know, we may list these as criteria points, but the best physique always wins. Mm-hmm. And so if you are leaner, you're just going to win. If you are a little bit more muscular, you're just going to win, regardless of division. I don't think that's the case here.
No.
So there is a specific look for bikini, and you need to be lean enough.
Yep.
But if you cross that line, and all of a sudden you're seeing glute striations and so forth, I see women being moved to the side. They're just not in contention for that center spot.
Absolutely. There's a strike zone in conditioning that you have to meet. And it's really hard to describe because we see people that store body fat a little differently. Some store more in the midsection, and you might have to bring in harder glutes to get your midsection into a more appropriate spot for bikini. And maybe vice versa, where you hold a lot in the glutes and your abs are shredded, and they don't necessarily want shredded abs, but they do want your glutes tight and rounded. So starting with conditioning, I think that talking about this can really divide a lot of, they went hard at this show and soft at this show. Well, did you even look to see, was that a master's class or was it an open class? So bikini is definitely a very finite strike zone to hit.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor for that. And all of you ladies watching this, you know, first of all, understand that genetics are genetics. You're not going to just diet down to a certain point and then all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm there. This is the perfect place I need to be. But in fact, with genetic body fat distribution, you may have to do exactly what Adam said, which is possibly go a little bit further to lose body fat. And then with your peaking process, risk filling out a little bit more. So I was talking to one of Paul Ravella's competitors, a pro IFBB bikini competitor, and she said, you know, the girls who placed in front of me just definitely had tighter glutes. And like we said, they didn't have necessarily glute striations. They didn't like a female physique competitor, but there was almost like, you know, their hamstrings and their glutes, the tie-ins were all there, and they were definitely lean, but yet not to the point where there's this massive vascularity and things like that. So for 90% of women being estrogen dominant and you store more body fat in your lower body, that is a very difficult strike zone to hit.
It is.
Because you're trying to get your lower body lean enough, and then your upper body is leaner and harder and vascular and delt striations everywhere. So in that scenario, what do you do with a client?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because my client Sharon, who got her pro card yesterday. Very similar situation. They wanted her a little bit leaner, but they also wanted her fuller in the glutes.
Totally opposite criteria.
Yep. And it's just interesting. So in my client's instance, they wanted those fuller glutes, and I thought, let's go the opposite. Instead of peaking for fullness, let's come in tighter, have the illusion that those glutes are bigger, and it worked wonderfully. They pulled her right into the center.
And so were you intentionally just a little bit on the flat side?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was the game plan.
And I let her know this is what we're going to have to risk. She loved feeling flatter but yet tighter. So it was kind of a win-win. I knew sometimes you had to push a client to where they're uncomfortable. This was one of those great scenarios where she was all aboard. I want to be tighter, and I don't care if I'm a little flat.
So it's almost like being a fighter and playing down a weight class, because I have 2 IFBB Pro competitors that I helped, one this year, one a couple years ago, that I had to do the same thing. They were just so muscular and so big, we had to make them appear flatter. Mm-hmm. And that worked, because then they had the muscle tissue, they had the structure to deal with, and they just had to almost look bad to win.
Yes.
Again, I don't mean that to sound crass for people who are trying really hard, they just have great genetics, but you really do have to know where you fit in between figure and bikini and physique.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to figure, because that's what is happening today.
Yes.
And women are definitely going to be carrying a little bit more muscle for this. And is there much difference in conditioning?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot harder conditioning. Now, they don't necessarily want to see striations. And again, you're going to see a big variance between Masters and Open, just like you will in Bikini. They're going to allow a little more striation possibly in Masters. But when you get into the Open, they really want to just see nice rounded muscles, symmetry. A good V taper is huge. And my pro client, Lisa, who competed yesterday, she weighed in 101 pounds, and going up against girls that are 140, 150 pounds, ends up pulling off a 4th place, which is pretty amazing. That was all due to her conditioning and being tight enough, but not too tight.
And one of the things that we can't not mention is just posing. And, depending on your conditioning and your strengths and your weaknesses structurally, how you present that is always going to be a deal maker or breaker. So very quickly over to women's physique. This is taking the place of women's bodybuilding.
Yes.
So it's pretty much women's bodybuilding.
Yep.
Have they changed the criteria, or is it just the biggest, hardest, most symmetrical wins?
I think that it's not necessarily striation still, because there's still just a slight bit of bodybuilding that exists. But it is really hard to be too hard in that division. Mm-hmm. I think the size is going to be what takes you into that next realm, which is bodybuilding. Yeah. But it really is a pretty similar criteria to bodybuilding. It just ends up being a little safer, I would say, as far as chemical warfare goes, to be in physique versus bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And a lot more appealing to most women. So.
I did see that definite move down from bodybuilding to physique today, where some of the women being rewarded with those center spots definitely had a tighter, more symmetrical physique than other women who were bigger, and some of them bigger and leaner.
Yeah, so. My client Jada, who won her pro card at USA's this year, she had a lot of girls who outsized her, and it really came down to how conditioned she was. And we had to bring her in flat to pull off the type of conditioning we needed, because she just is someone that really does not take well to many carbs for carb loading. Mm-hmm. And we just could not risk giving up that tightness in her division.
Right. And speaking of tightness, we now have yet another division coming out next year that has been announced. And for the last at least 15 years, there has been this downgrading of conditioning, where as the women's bodybuilding sport was just pretty much on life support, if you want to say it that way, in terms of just, not very many women coming on board, not very many fans wanting to see that. And they really got a hard knock just for being, quote, not feminine enough. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's fair. It's a sport, and if it's, all things are allowed, then let the best physique win. But for general population and viewing acceptance, they have continued to come down. So that's where figure was created, and then things like fit body, and then oh gosh, there were even a couple more divisions that have kind of come and gone. But then down to bikini, and now the wellness division.
Yes.
So interesting that even just the name bikini, was supposed to be, hey, if you just look great in a bikini on the beach, you look like a normal female who's just fit, then this is the division for you. But now it's kind of a look that not many normal women would achieve.
Correct.
So the wellness division is going to be that next step that they keep trying to get into the sport. Is that right?
Yeah, it's basically going to be merely a figure lower body with a bikini upper half, with more developed glutes. There's going to be much more judging focus on how big, how full the glutes are, how tight they are. So I would like to call it a supercharged bikini division in a way. And I love it. I think it's so cool. I've already had girls internationally who have competed in wellness. And now when they have their meeting in November, we'll actually know what the American criteria or in the USA is going to be. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I'm excited that they keep trying to be more inclusive, but I'm also a little concerned because I think this is going to get away from them like everything else has. Because if you look at the criteria online and you look at the photos they provide, it's almost like they're saying, okay, we know, estrogen dominance is an issue. Like, you can't, all of these women trying to fight genetics and DNA to get lean enough to win in physique, to win in figure, to win in bikini. We need yet another division for women who just can't get that lean. But now they're calling it, having better development in your thighs and in your glutes. And the pictures they show are these women with amazing glutes. It's not just a little bit more body fat. It's not a little more softness. It looks like it's literally going to be, as you said, a supercharged bikini. So now they want, maybe women who are, squatting 300 pounds. I'm just making that up. But I mean, they really want that leg development and that glute development, not just a softer, more appealing look.
Yeah.
But yet it's wellness,
Correct.
which is even a term that moves away from fitness and training and bodybuilding. Wellness.
Yes.
I'm worried.
A
I'll
bit
say
of
that.
an oxymoron.
Yeah, I'm a little worried.
It has created a bit of an identity crisis and a bit of just people dissecting what they think it is versus what it is.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like to describe to people, they think the wellness division is not going to be lean. When you have bigger muscle bellies, you can look leaner without being necessarily lean. So if you've ever seen Phil Heath in his off season, I don't know if the guy can ever not see separation in his quads, no matter what body fat he is. And he could get up to 360 pounds in the off season and still have that separation in the quads. I would very much like to compare that to the wellness division, that these girls are so quad and glute dominant. They have amazing separation at higher body fat levels because the development of the muscle is so great.
And that is my worry, is that it then, once again, leaves it in the hands of just women who are genetically superior versus a little bit more inclusive of a general population or wellness or bikini look.
Correct.
But we'll see. I mean, the trend always goes that way. It's always just going to get down to, who actually has more muscle and all that.
And it's going to be a very interesting change. If people remember the women's physique division coming out, it caused an identity crisis with the bodybuilders. What am I now? And we saw at the very first Arnold, Laura Pfeiffer, she beat girls that were way bigger than her, and they really wanted to implement that criteria right then. And I believe she got third at the Arnold that year, and she beat some monsters. And probably one of the most exciting moments of my career, because I felt like Mighty Mouse just took down some giants. But that was just them implementing the new criteria for physique back then.
Right. Yeah. And it's an evolution, so we'll see where that one goes.
Yeah.
But very quickly, let's now cover some of the guys. So men's physique, that is taken the world by storm, the sport by storm, just because, again, a lot of people who don't necessarily want or have the genetics to just create the most muscle mass want a little bit more of a healthy model-ish like look. But again, that has evolved, and so now you do have an awful lot of muscle, and it's, as I'm told by some coaches, it's really just kind of a chest and ab show. So you gotta have, big broad shoulders and pecs, and then, tight small waist. Definitely just as lean as any bodybuilder could ever get.
Yes.
But you're in board shorts. So how would you describe that with all of your clients, your male physique clients? What do you tell them? This is what we have to achieve.
Yeah, you really want a good V taper, great conditioning, and you do want to come in lean for that. And now they're allowing you to twist again, because some of the guys were just getting so big. There's no weight limit in physique, and they don't want people outshining the classic physique or bodybuilding by any means. What's great about this division, there's tons of people who have knee or hip or just leg injuries that prevent them from the lower body training. So that's been awesome. One of my clients used to jump out of airplanes and had a horrible accident, and he's nationally qualified, just awesome men's physique competitor. But with that criteria, there's not a lot of wiggle room when you're just judging the upper body. We see it many times in bodybuilding. Someone wins by having better legs, and that can make it seem more subjective to people. But also the types of shorts you might wear could make a difference. And I've always loved when people wear like a 1-inch transition band. It almost makes that waist look longer and leaner, so to speak. So short selection can even be much more of a matter than like bodybuilding trunks in that case.
Now, in the spirit of what we've been talking about, which is the evolution of the different classes, very quickly after this division came out, pretty soon it was just gigantic bodybuilders in board shorts winning. Is that definitely a change? I mean, are they coming back to saying, look, if you're just too big for this division, you really need to step aside and stick to bodybuilding?
Yeah, I think they are. The NPC does a great job with their criteria, especially on a national level, because that's going to be where you get the best judges on the panel.
So you can be too big for
absolutely
physique. Okay.
Yeah.
You can have the best physique, you're amazing, you're huge, you're still not going to win.
Correct.
Men's physique.
Now, I think it takes some pretty bad asymmetry to get that way, but it can happen. So,
but like we talked about, you can almost make yourself look a little smaller. I mean, I've seen clients and coaches do that, where if they're kind of in between those classes, again, they just say, okay, I'm not super successful in bodybuilding, so I'll just come in a little flatter and lose a little bit of muscle kind of on purpose, whether it's through training or dieting or the peaking process, and still do well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a lot of wiggle room with these divisions, which is great.
So the difference between classic physique and or classic bodybuilding and bodybuilding now, is there a size difference, or is this just we're gonna give them slightly bigger shorts?
Yeah,
posing suits.
Well, a little bit of both, because when you weigh in, you have a weight limit and height limit, so there's going to be a size difference. But sometimes people can have just some freaky muscle density, and this is always what makes a good bodybuilder or classic physique, is the illusion that you're way bigger than what you actually weigh. So I have a client right now who threw me off by 20 pounds. He said, guess what I weigh? I was 20 pounds off. I said, you're going to be an amazing classic physique or bodybuilder, because that's the illusion of what we do. So yeah, it's definitely got that height to weight cutoff. And once people start pushing really hard to make that weight, they take that next off season. Sometimes they just need to jump into bodybuilding. It's just not going to be feasible for them to get any leaner. And I hate to say cut water, but we will say cut water to make weight in this instant, to get into that weight class. And you also have to be careful. Your height could be different at one show to another. So if you're riding that height line close and they measure you differently, your next choice is to either go up to bodybuilding or put on some board shorts if they fit around your legs and do physique.
Yeah, so a lot of evolution, guys, in the criteria, and I do think year to year, different organizations implement it differently. Some of them take a hard stance, but you've got 7 to 9 judges on every panel. You just don't know how it's going to shake out. One of the things that I would recommend is experimenting with different classes. They're all different in terms of posing need and the overall look, even the cut of the suit. So, definitely something to experiment with and try and just see what you like the best and what your physique is most suited for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anything else you want to leave our good Pittsburgh crowd here with? Posing.
I think just like with bodybuilding, making sure you're successful, maybe drug-free bodybuilder for a few years before making that jump. You don't want to take a horse and try to turn it into a giraffe. And I see a ton of guys making that mistake right now. So I just think it's something good to note and put some years in before you decide to make that jump. You're literally at the top end of the sport. And I think a lot of people kind of dive into that end too quickly. And there's all these great divisions to jump into prior to.
All right, guys, hope that helps. We will let you go at this point, and very happy that you're watching and listening. Thanks for that. We're going to get busy back in the studio and bring you some more short topical content. So thank you, Adam, for
thank you.
meeting me here in Pittsburgh, and we will catch you guys next time.